privileged tonight and honored to be in the presence of our keynote speaker, who tonight will share some of his deepest wisdoms with us. Reverend Bryan Massingale is professor at Marquette University, an author and one of the most sought-after speakers on race, poverty, peace, and justice within our church today. He specializes in social ethics, focusing on Catholic social teaching, liberation theologies, African-American religious ethics, racial justice, and applying Catholic social thought to the issues of affirmative action, racial reconciliation, environmental justice, HIV/AIDS stigma, racism both post-Katrina and now post-Obama, and the challenge of peacemaking in an age of terrorism. He has authored over 60 articles, book chapters, and book reviews, his work appearing in Theological Studies, Origins, U.S. Catholic, the National Catholic Reporter, and elsewhere. In January 2008, he published a major document for Catholic Charities USA entitled Poverty and Racism, Overlapping Threats to the Common Good. He recently finished a new book, Racial Justice and the Catholic Church, which is available from Orbis Books and is being sold here at the conference, with a book signing by Bryan tomorrow during lunch. Bryan is a leader in U.S. Catholic theology. He is the current president of the Catholic Theological Society of America and convener of the Black Catholic Theological Symposium. He has served as a consultant to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, providing theological assistance on issues such as criminal justice, capital punishment, environmental justice, and affirmative action. In addition to teaching at Marquette University, Bryan is a professor in the Institute for Black Catholic Studies at Xavier University in New Orleans. Bryan has been recognized by the Catholic Press Association for an award-winning opinion column examining contemporary political issues from a faith perspective, and was the recipient of Project Equality's Religious Momentum Award for his efforts in promoting diversity in the Catholic Church. When I heard Bryan speak at the Catholic Social Ministries gathering in D.C. a few years ago, I was totally bowled over by his willingness to confront his own audience that night with the challenge not to only critique injustice that's out there, but to examine in our own hearts and identify the ways in which we are personally complicit in the injustices and violence we work so hard out there to alleviate. I look forward to hearing his chalk talk tonight, and I believe that you will be remembering his words for a long time to come, as I know I will. Please welcome Father Bryan Massingale.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And in the spirit of our gathering tonight, peace be with you.
And also with you.
Thank you. Good Catholic audience. I love it. It's always a joy to be with you. I was last here at your convention, I believe, is in 2003, and it was just after the outbreak of the Iraq conflict, the Iraq War. Many of you I've seen at various other gatherings that we are parts of, because once you're involved in one social action cause, you don't stay pigeonholed there too often. And so it's good to be with you again. Some of you, I heard scatterbutt, how people talk, saying that we don't know anything about this keynote speaker. Who is he? Is he Orthodox? Well, look at how I'm dressed, okay? Except be forewarned. The more conservatively I dress, the more provocative the talk. We gather this year to do something which is a bit unusual, or better said, perhaps to do something more intentionally. Pax Christi is justly known for its intrepid witness for peace. Yet the deep connections between peacemaking most obviously in opposition to war, and the pursuit of justice here at home, those connections are not so often adverted to. Now, in part, perhaps this might be due to a need to have a division of labor. After all, everyone can't do everything, so the reasoning goes. So Pax Christi, well, Pax Christi focuses on peace. And we primarily peace abroad, ending war. And we leave to others a concern for other social justice issues such as education, healthcare, immigration, and criminal justice. For some, and this is one of the things I was most attracted to Pax Christi, because I want to be honest with you. When I first came to Pax Christi in 2003, my image of Pax Christi was this was a bunch of middle-aged white people with a lot of gray hair who were only concerned about peace. Then I found out that there was this thing called Pax Christi anti-racism. And I thought, wow, this is a group I could really get into. Except that I discovered since then is that some believe that Pax Christi's anti-racism initiative seems a bit far afield, moving away from its primary focus. Some even regard it as a misplaced emphasis. I went home and talked to everyone about my joining Pax Christi and about its anti-racism initiative. Some people looked at me and said, "What are you talking about? I thought we were concerned about pacifism." Now, I don't think that our focus upon one single issue is something that's done out of ill will. Maybe it's just out of concern there's only such limited energy or limited funds. But this year's theme, no justice, no peace, ending war at home and abroad, challenges such thinking and such focus on a single issue. And thus it's meant to be deliberately provocative. In the root sense of that word, provocare, it's Latin Orthodox, provocare, to call forth. It demands, this theme, that we recover the intention and the commitment that was raised by Martin Luther King Jr., who realized that a forthright opposition to the Vietnam War was required by his commitment to ending racial injustice and crushing poverty. For him, the triplets of evil, as he called them, imperialistic militarism, racism, and poverty were so interrelated and interconnected that any effective struggle against one demanded an engagement and struggle against the others as well. He refused to segment his moral concern. He refused to confine himself or isolate himself as in a narrow category as a civil rights leader as opposed to a peace activist. To quote one of his signature phrases, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Or more pointedly, perhaps for this group, he realized he could not advocate the pursuit of nonviolent social change at home while remaining silent about the carnage taking place in his name abroad. So the challenge for Pax Christi this year and the next year and the next year, Dave didn't know I was going to give you a multi-year agenda here, okay? It's news to him too. Blame me, not him. Is to understand and to honor the corollary of King's insight. Namely, Pax Christi and other social action groups have to recognize the incongruity of pursuing peace in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq while remaining silent and even oblivious to the violence and injustice in our own neighborhoods. And the south side of Chicago is our neighborhood. as is East Central Los Angeles, our neighborhood, as is East St. Louis, our neighborhood, as is the Bronx, our neighborhood, because I think 2 weeks ago, Jesus dealt with that question already when he asked the question, who is my neighbor? Are you with me so far?
Amen.
Okay, well, make sure you're not falling asleep yet. Okay, I know some people travel. Now, it falls to me to make the case, to connect the dots, and to make more real a commitment that many of us may espouse intellectually, but somehow resist emotionally. So I'm going to make the case in 3 moves tonight. First, I'm going to examine the changes in U.S. national security policy that have taken place since 2002, and highlight several significant shifts. Since most of us are concerned about peace, let's look at what our current national security posture is and compare it to its predecessor. Then I will point out that a glaring omission or weakness in this strategy, despite its recognition that security and development at home is important for national security. Next, I will then examine what the prophets intend when they speak of a holistic peace, one that is secured through the pursuit of justice, to give our concerns a faith-filled basis. And finally, I will conclude with the challenges of articulating and living out this deep connection between peace abroad and peace at home, between peace-seeking and justice-building, and the challenge it raises for us as we live in a church that is seemingly in rapid retreat from its own justice vision. As I said, the more conservative the dress, the more provocative the talk.